Okay, now continuing on with Legend of Sleepy Hollow, we were talking about um, these long lists of wildlife, and then we get food, all the savory dishes, the pig with the apple, um, the birds nestled in their pastry shells, etc. There's another really wonderful one on page 53, um, at the very bottom, that is all about the Dutch tea table from the Van Tassels. And here's an important part, once again, of Irving's work, is he's talking about Dutch descendants living in the United States and how they bring with them their traditions, their cooking styles, and apply it to the American scene. And in there, he talks about, uh, platters of cakes of various and almost indescribable kinds. And this is like Crane just fantasizing about the food that he's going to see: the doughy donut, the tenderer oliekoek, the crisp and crumbling cruller, sweet cakes and shortcakes, ginger cakes and honey cakes, and the whole family of cakes. Then there were apple pies and peach pies and pumpkin pies, and not to mention slices of ham. And here comes some other stuff: beefs, together with broiled shad and roasted chickens and all this kind of stuff. Just this wonderful buffet of food. And what I want you to keep in mind here is that this is part of a long tradition of listing things out that goes all the way back to the classical Greeks. It goes back to Homer and the Iliad and the Odyssey. Now, when it's used in that terminal, those kinds of contexts, it's called an epic catalog. And catalog just doesn't mean like one of these things. It means a long list of things. I've got an example of it right here from the Iliad. And this is about, the 900s or so before the Common Era. So, there are these long lists of ships and also of warriors, and people going off to fight, right here at 494. Peneleos and Leitos were leaders of the Boeotians, and Arcesilaos and Prothoenor and Clonios, those who dwelt in Hyria and rocky Aulus, and Skoinos and Skolos, and many spurred Etionos and Thespia, Graia, Mikalesos with its broad dancing floor, da 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 da, and I could go along. And if you're a real, Greek geek like I am, these passages are just fun to read, and you get that powerful sense of these warriors and these fighters through the crispy and crunchy Greek language. Now, while this is an epic catalog, when we talk about it within an epic, here it's a parody of that. It's a mock epic catalog, if you want to put it that way. There's nothing grand or amazing or earth-shattering about wonderful donuts. I mean, we all love a good donut, don't get me wrong, but doesn't have that same kind of importance and gravity as all these powerful warriors going off to risk their lives. So it becomes an almost silly moment at several different places in the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And again, we mostly all know this story, and in fact the story takes up very little space. It's really all about painting this lush scene of people and places and foods and animal life. We know how the story ends. But the interesting thing is when you get to this postscript, which is left out of practically every kind of, visual media reincarnation of this story. It's on page 61. And here Diedrich Knickerbocker, remember, the person telling the story, says, the preceding tale is given almost in the precise words in which I heard it related at the corporation meeting of the ancient city of Manhattos, that means Manhattan, at which were present many of its sagest and most illustrious burghers, citizens. So look, it's even one telling even further removed by this point. Well, I heard it from somebody else. So Irving is writing a story that Knickerbocker heard from somebody else. So how can we have any kind of absolute or objective truth when we've got this kind of narrative setup, this game of telephone going from speaker to speaker and speaker? In the middle of that first paragraph after the break, he says, there was, however, one tall, dry-looking old gentleman with beetling eyebrows who maintained a grave and rather severe face throughout, now and then folding his arms, inclining his head, and looking down upon the floor as if turning a doubt over in his mind. So he's not believing the story. The storyteller, who is now just putting a glass of wine to his lips as a refreshment after his toils, paused for a moment, looking at his inquirer with an air of infinite deference, that means courteous respect, and lowering the glass slowly to the table, observed that the story was intended most logically to prove. So in other words, what do we get out of the story? What's the moral of it? And here are the three things. One, that there is no situation in life that has its advantages and pleasures, provided we will but take a joke as we find it. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing, that therefore he that runs races with goblin troopers is likely to have rough riding of it. Ergo, that means therefore, for a country schoolmaster to be refused the hand of a Dutch heiress is a certain step to high preferment in the state. Now that almost suggests that this bony member in this listening party is Ichabod Crane. But these things don't really follow each other. This is supposed to be a very logical linguistic structure known as a syllogism, right? You have two statements, and from them you can draw a conclusion about a third statement. Okay, let me give you an example here. One, here's the first statement, the first postulate. You did some of these if you ever had to do geometry proofs, right, where you used language. First postulate, all human beings are mortal. Or how about all human beings will die? Second one, let's say Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a human being. Okay, those are our two postulates. Those are our givens. From that, we can draw a conclusion. Therefore, or ergo, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will die. Okay, fair enough. Now, I don't see necessarily that there's that same kind of tight logic or conclusion that can be drawn from this little unit of reasoning that the speaker puts here. And look how it continues. The cautious old gentleman knit his brows tenfold closer after this explanation, being sorely puzzled by the ratiocination, that means reasoning, of the syllogism. While methought the one in pepper and salt eyed him with something of a triumphant leer. So once again, that kind of hints that maybe that's Ichabod Crane. At length he observed that all this was very well, but still he thought the story a little on the extravagant. There were one or two points on which he had his doubts. Oh, just one or two. Faith, sir, replied the storyteller, as to that matter, I don't believe one half of it myself. So here at the end, after going through all this story and everything, even the storyteller is saying, yeah, I think half of it at least is probably BS. So again, we've got this, this introduction of a legend, of folklore, which is essential to any kind of community, large or small, that's been around for a significant length of time. And he's putting forward this story, but he too is acknowledging, it's just one of those things, So why even tell it at the first place? Notice again how this is really pushing back at those ideals of the Enlightenment. This story does not focus on reason. It does not focus on what we can all observe and maintain. It is about what one person, Ichabod Crane, claims that he sees or thinks that he sees, even though nobody's around to witness it, right? And is therefore really unverifiable. And this gets to the heart of things that push back against the Enlightenment. We're going to call this the Counter Enlightenment, frame of mind. if you want to call it the Counter Enlightenment worldview, you can do that as well. But that's something that's going to be exceedingly important when we move forward with Nathaniel Hawthorne and also with Edgar Allan Poe. And again, in some way, these are the funner pieces of literature to read in lots of different ways, but they are things that cannot really be objectively verified. So stay tuned. I'll be back with Nathaniel Hawthorne pretty quickly.